Hello and welcome to the Binge Thinker episode 16. My name is Jameel Raymond. It's an absolute pleasure as always to have you here today. On today's podcast, I'm going to go through my full mental and physical health routine that I go through in one day. I thought it'd be a great way to just condense a whole bunch of information into one place. It can be a great repository of all the things that I've talked about on this podcast so far, all the various physical and mental health practices. Why not put them all in one place so you can pick apart what I do and apply it to your own life practically, right? This is as far as I can get you to help yourself by leading you to the water and then hopefully you drink. So this is the way I apply the different practices, why they're specifically in those areas, what systems and benefits they have to your physical and mental health, and how I structure them out so I can make the most of my day and achieve all the things that I do. So there's actually quite a few things here. This may be a two-parter, maybe not, maybe it's just another gigantic one-parter like I've always done. But let's kick off, shall we? Let's get started. Hopefully this shows you, to preface this, right, is the idea is that these are behaviors. These are daily ingrained behaviors that I have in my life. We are what we repeatedly do. None of this stuff is intended to be temporary. This is supposed to be the constant upward growth and development of anything that I'm trying to achieve in my life by maintaining a solid base of physical and mental well-being practice. So you'll find that a lot of these practices are built around the start and the end of my day because I usually fill the rest of my day with the things that I'm trying to do with myself. All the things I'm trying to get better at, all the projects that I've got, going to work, meeting people, all that life stuff, all that important life stuff, the things you're supposed to be enjoying whilst you maintain a positive baseline of health and wealth to experience it. So, without further ado, let's kick things off. So, at the moment, usually I will wake up at 6 a.m. Now, I used to wake up at 5:30. That's changed a little bit because of Comedy Festival. I was getting up a lot later, which meant I used to wake up a little bit later as well. Did I say that right? Yeah, went to bed later, woke up later. But generally, I used to get up before 6. And that's just mostly to get everything that I need to do in my day. I was never really a morning person. I used to be someone that didn't mind a big sleep in, but probably that's when I was a lot more dysregulated as an individual. Back in the day when I was a muso, I would go to bed at 3 or 4 in the morning and then wake up at midday, which, sounds kind of fun, but you kind of realize how much of the day you've wasted and how shit you feel because your body is so dysregulated out of the major physical and mental systems that we'll talk about, such as circadian rhythm and those sorts of things. So I don't necessarily need to wake up this early. I choose to, again, so I can achieve everything that I need to in the day. People that are in trades probably will be a little bit more time poor in the morning. There are people that get up at like 4 a.m. Like I think The Rock gets up at like 4 a.m. to do his entire workout. Good for you, mate. Like no wonder you're the biggest hard cunt around because you're willing to do the work that other people aren't. And that's why you're as successful as you are. 5:30, 6 a.m. I'm doing plenty for a pretty decent, I wouldn't say mediocre. What's the way I put it? It's not mediocre. It's a good life. I live well. Very, very happy with the way I live. So, getting up 6 a.m., not a morning person, okay? So even before I am waking up, I actually program some things to help me wake up in the morning. So one of the first systems we're going to talk about here is your circadian rhythm. So the circadian rhythm is a system in your body that governs your sleeping and waking processes, the necessary hormones, and the not necessary bodily processes to get your brain out of sleep and functioning like a normal human being. Now, this is probably one of the most understated systems that we do not regulate in our day-to-day lives. The work of Dr. Andrew Huberman has been largely influential in me cleaning up my sleep and my sleep hygiene and managing my circadian rhythm. So a lot of the things that I've taken from my morning processes have actually been from him, particularly around things like light regulation, blue light, some supplements and things like that. So what I do to help me wake up at 6 a.m. every morning, I actually use a little bit of technology to help wake me up naturally a little bit earlier in the morning. So what I do is I've got things like LifeX and Hue, which are remote controlled and Wi-Fi controlled and regulated lighting systems all over my house. So I've got a couple of globes, one in my bedroom, some in my lounge room, one in my upper room as well. And what I use automation to help me out and program my lighting to kick on before I've actually physically woken up. And automation is an actual great way to build in these routines into your life as well. Just to take that a further step, when this is effectively implemented into your life, a lot of this stuff is almost automation. Like my morning routine is pretty close to autopilot every single day. And that's what you want. You want to be able to create a powerful habit and routine that your body and your, conscious mind will actually just want to go through the motions of every day. And that's a really potent thing to keep in your back pocket. And one of the things I try and aim to do, just by putting everything in my morning routine and developing the habit where it becomes just second nature, similar to the diet, similar to basically all of these practices. There's actually very little conscious effort that I have to put in to actually get this through my day. Their routines, their rituals. The human body likes routine. The mind likes familiarity. So once you build these routines into your day, this might sound like a lot when we go through it, but it's actually not, because that's just what the body and the mind is used to. So back to automation, what I do is on Apple Home, if you don't have Apple Home, if you're an Android user, I think Google has some automation platform based around Alexa. Give that a shot, right? LifeX globes, they start from $40 at JB or something like that, connected to your Wi-Fi, pretty easy to set up. And you get like a fun little app. And I think you can set up automation through the app as well, but I just use Apple Home because I'm trying to keep all my systems in one place. So what I do is at 5:30, during the weeknights, I will automate, put a command in for my LifeX globe in my bedroom to turn on the lowest possible setting, so 1%, on pure red light. So these LifeX globes, they change LED colors and that sort of thing. So what that does is that starts to affect the circadian rhythm of your body, because we are very, very sensitive to light and sunlight, much more than we actually care to admit. And that's what I said, the circadian rhythm and how much physical light affects us is a heavily underutilized tool of regulating the human body and the human nervous system. So what this does is that small amount of red light doesn't seem like much, 1%, but because the light globe is right next to my face, it's like a lamp. It's a bedroom lamp. That replicates morning sun. That replicates in my mind that the sun is rising, and then the processes in my autonomic nervous system start to kick off, right? And then with that just slowly pulls you out of subconsciousness. I don't think you'd be in deep REM sleep by then, but essentially you're going, hey brain, instead of jolting your brain awake with a loud alarm or some brash light, you are slowly building up the tempo of waking up your mind. And that's, particularly useful, because the last thing you want to do is just put a whole bunch of shock and cortisol into your body with a loud alarm. There are much better ways to wake your body up than the traditional ways of a fucking analog alarm clock with 2 bells and a tiny hammer. Like, that just goes to show how little we knew about our own bodies and minds, that we thought the best way to wake us up was a fucking, an alarm bell. Not great. So that wakes me up in the morning, and then I do have a soft alarm at 6 a.m. Sometimes if I've had a good sleep, I will naturally wake up before the alarm goes off. That hasn't been happening much as of late, but if all goes well, the alarm doesn't feel like a shock to me. I'm not pulling myself out of a dream, and 3 layers of, what was that movie? I was thinking about Leonardo DiCaprio. Inception, right? I'm not 7 layers of Inception deep, trying to be an old Japanese man trying to secure whatever that bullshit was and spinning a top, blah, blah, blah. So that's what helps me wake up first thing in the morning. From there, I try to make the first thoughts that I have when I wake up positive. I try to be grateful for the day and go, fuck yeah, I get to do some cool shit. Now, that might be hard depending on where you're at in your life, but you've got to be thinking about the positives. You've got to be conditioning your mind to be thinking positively. So you'll see that one of my first thoughts and one of my last thoughts every single day is to be positive, is to be grateful. Because you're also, first thing in the morning, in the theta waves of your brain. So there are 4 main categories of brain waves, from highest frequency to lowest frequency. It's theta, so it's beta, alpha, theta, delta. So beta waves, as a high level understanding of what the brain waves are, high level beta waves are distress brain waves. So when you're dysregulated, when your body's out of whack, when you've got troubles and there's problems and you're in fight or flight mode. Low range beta waves are not bad for you. That's just your normal operating day to day. Alpha waves are more focused, a little bit more driven. And then the theta and the delta are more like your dreamlike state, lower frequency, lower states of consciousness, but also get you into the almost like the operating system of your own brain, right? It's like the back end mode. So things like meditation and yoga nidra and deep rest and taking naps. When you get into a nap, but you don't necessarily fall asleep, you're in that weird dreamlike state, and you don't know what the fuck's going on, and you might be a little bit sweaty. That's the sign of a great nap, by the way. Once you hit those brain waves, you're actually more likely to influence consciously your subconscious thoughts and actions, right? So think of it like starting up a computer. If you think about when you start up a computer, if you're a bit of a techie, you know you can actually get into your computer in the back end of your computer when you turn it on by pressing a couple of keys to access the BIOS. And that's essentially what the waking period of your mind is like. So you could actually sort of deeper program something positive into your subconscious first thing in the morning. And that's why it's very important to not think negatively, think positively, and don't do things like be on your phone first thing in the morning. Because almost immediately you're getting harsh blue light from the device, which is good in the morning, but it's more about the dopamine and the nature of the addiction as to why you're using your phone. You don't want to get yourself into that habit first thing in the morning. Because again, you're conditioning your mind into just negative, repetitive bullshit. Because so often when we're looking at our phones, we're unconscious about it. We're not necessarily seeking information or an outcome. We're probably just getting that shitty little dopamine fix. And, our eyes are watching all the little pretty lights and movements, which is actually not useful for us when we're slowly booting up our minds first thing in the morning. So, first thing is positive. I make my bed as soon as I can. That's just a little bit of a good mental habit. I know, Jordan Peterson likes to say, make your bed first thing in the morning. The sign of a organized room is a sign of an organized mind, which is very true, actually. I find that mentally I'm in a much better place if my environment is decluttered, because it is probably a reflection of myself and not being able to, keep a lid on all the smaller things in my life, such as hygiene. Hygiene in not personal hygiene ways. I'm very clean day to day. It's just all the little things that pile up in your life. Like the dishes. I'm not great at doing the dishes. Thank God I got a dishwasher. There's always those little 1-2 things that you need to do. And when they start to pile up, you know that you're probably falling off your usual routines and habits. So yes, make my bed. And then what I do is I have a window in my room. Open the blind straight away, try and get some light. Now, at the moment, it is still quite dark. First thing in the morning, there's no real sunrise until probably about 6:45, 7 a.m. that I can see. So to wake up my Circadian rhythm, I will try and put on as much light as possible in my house. So bedroom light, kitchen, bathroom light, that kind of sucks, but it's the most I can do in this situation because I don't wake up when the sun is out. Um, which in some ways is kind of annoying. It used to be great during the summer, but first thing, one of the, I guess, being a bit of a hard ass, there's always that nice little edge. You get like, yeah, I'm up first thing in the morning. I'm up before my competition. That sort of shit. And that might be a bit douchey and a bit, macho, but fuck it. It works in my favor. I'm not here to not be a masculine man and not be competitive. Fuck that. I compete. So, getting the light in, helping wake up my circadian rhythm and my body for the day. If there is natural light outside, I will brush my teeth outdoors. A couple of minutes, stare at the, not the sunrise, but the horizon, where that yellow-blue light, that's actually, again, nature by design, is the best for us first thing in the morning, is that yellowy blue natural sunlight. It's almost like we were meant to be in the sun all the time, guys. Who would have thought? So, brush my teeth, get the light in my eyes, wake up my circadian rhythm, and, making sure that I am as least distracted as possible, particularly in that first hour of the day. It's really, really important that you set that first hour up. Because, and I've noticed the difference, particularly in the last few weeks when I haven't been doing my morning routine as accurately. Maybe I do go on my phone a little bit, or I get sucked into socials, or because there is less light, my body is less responsive. I'm a little bit slower in the mornings. I have definitely felt that the last few weeks. And there is a massive difference, not just in the morning, but the way that it plays my day out as well. So pretty critical that first hour of the day. So once I'm out of bed, brush my teeth, bed is made, I will start my morning mental routine. So pretty much straight away out of bed, I go upstairs, I try and move my body around a little bit, stretch my back, loosen my spine up, get some energy flowing throughout the body, because I usually sleep in only like two positions at night. I'm a big side sleeper. So naturally my body's a bit stiff, no pun intended. The boys know what I'm talking about. And yeah, just trying to get some energy flowing, get some chi moving, so to speak. And then, first of all, I will go up and start my morning journaling. So, literally within the first 15 minutes of the day, I start journaling. I start trying to process some mental thought, some visualization. So, how that works is I've adapted a journaling process through a guy called Jim Kwik. I may have talked about Jim Kwik before. Jim, yep, Kwik. And Jim Kwik he's a super learner. He's made his following and his fortune and his fame through being a passionate learner and educator. So Jim actually had a learning disability at a young age, and he's turned that weakness into a superpower. It's fucking amazing. So he learned all about the brain, about how we learn, the cognitive processes, the ways that we should be treating our brain, feeding it, managing our thoughts for maximum performance. He's got this thing about speed reading. One of his key phrases is readers are leaders, and I tend to agree. So he can apparently increase your reading speed by up to 3 times, which is a pretty cool feat. And the way he does it is that you sort of just scan through words. You don't actually have to speak them out. You will visually, even if you don't read it out, like what we were taught to do in school, you will absorb a lot of that information without necessarily having to verbalize it, because you actually have more data bandwidth through your eyes than you do by repeating it verbally. So that's a cool little tip. I really recommend Jim's book Limitless, because it's a fantastic tool about getting meta. So when I'm saying meta, it's learning how to learn. It's learning how you learn, as opposed to just saying, I'm learning. You can actually improve the process of the way you learn by understanding how you learn, what motivates you, and the modalities of learning. Maybe you're a more visual learner, maybe you're a more auditory learner. There is a lot more to this, guys. So you can get just deeper and deeper and get more meta with the way that you improve yourself if you care to take that effort and do the research. And that's what I kind of did as well. Is that I knew that I was someone that loved knowledge and loved to learn, but how do I piece that process apart as well? I'm constantly mentally tinkering with every process about myself. So, yep, with Jim Kwik, I adapted his style of journaling amongst a couple of others. The first thing I do in my journal every morning is I take notes of any dreams that I've had. Now, I don't probably remember about half of my dreams, as in I know that I dream most nights, if not every night. I will say that the weed usage probably does take down some of my dreams because there has been some science around it, and don't quote me on it. Don't quote me on a lot of things in general, actually, where weed consumption actually lowers your REM sleep, which is where you start dreaming and doing these deeper cognitive processes to help, realign your brain with all the thoughts you've had. So with that, jotting down my dreams, the reason why I do that is that there is a lot of potentiality about accessing your subconscious, recurring thoughts, because your brain's just processing everything that it's gone through over the last 24, 78, no, 48, 72 hours, all that sort of stuff. I don't do too much with it, I'll be honest. It was just a good habit that I got in as part of the journaling, but I just do it. And sometimes it's a good way to think about any recurring thoughts, and maybe find the symbolism in what your brain puts in front of you. If you're thinking about things in the past, some previous traumas, if you're trying to process your previous traumas, often that you might get recurring memories or dreams around those events. And that's something that I've picked up particularly from therapy, is that generally the narrative of what's been harming us replays as a memory in our heads over and over again. And that's that little breadcrumb of the part of yourself that you need to heal and acknowledge that you can move forward from it. So that's why dreaming and processing your dreams is a useful little tool there. And then I talked about this in a previous pod, but let's get into more detail. Again, journaling, a very useful process. So after the dreams, I write down 3 things that I am positive or grateful for. Take a second to appreciate where I'm at, some things that may have happened yesterday that I haven't thought about today, or just sort of some deeper reflections about what's happened. A lot of the things that I've been grateful for recently is flexibility. The fact that I work in a decent job at the moment that is quite flexible about time and outputs, particularly during this tumultuous time where I'm being pulled in a lot of directions with ACN, going out for festival, not having a rigid 9-to-5 job whilst still getting everything I need to done has been, a big godsend, right? I have been hesitant about going back into the corporate world, but I have to acknowledge and be grateful for the fact that it's keeping food on my table and I don't have to commit to 40 hours a week. It's probably a lot less realistically. As long as I'm hitting my sales number, I'm good and things are going pretty well. So 3 things that I'm grateful for, right? Positive about, and don't bullshit this, right? Don't just say, I'm grateful for the flowers. Think about things in your life. Get used to pointing out emotional peaks in your existence. Note them down. Start building and reinforcing the positive mindset and keep your brain trained towards looking towards the positive things. That's the whole point of this gratitude journaling, is to condition your brain to think positively and seek out positive things as opposed to seeking out what is wrong in your life. So there's the 3 things that I'm positive for. The 3 things next are the things I want to achieve in my day. I call this the 1% that I can focus on. Right? It's not, I've said this before, it's not about the big swings in life. It is about laying your 3 bricks every single day, knowing you're building towards your dreams, your ambitions, whatever it is. So keep nailing the 1%ers, because that 1% will add up and compound over time. So it could be a couple of things that I need to work on. So for example, today I needed to do a week's worth of content planning for ACN, do this podcast, and do my food shopping. Bang, bang, bang. 3 not so hectic things that I know that are putting myself in the best position to set me up for the week, for my life, for whatever I'm trying to achieve next. So those are little 1%ers. And then after that, I talk about my feeling tones. So I will write down, today I am. And then I sort of find 3 adjectives to describe how I'm feeling in that current moment. And the reason why I do that is, again, it's a good practice in emotional self-awareness, emotional regulation, and trying to see how much things affect me day to day. Like if something happened to me the day before that it, affected me pretty negatively, am I still carrying that today? That's a point of self-reflection, self-awareness. Why am I still carrying that burden? Why am I still hurt by this thing? Is it something serious? Is it a part of something deeper? So generally when I do write down these feeling tones, I am usually thinking for a few minutes. I can get a little bit distracted by going, why do I feel like this? What's the cause of this? Why is this here? So something to do for yourself as well. And then after I've done my 3 feeling tones, I will do a little bit of a gratitude prayer. I've recently, not always, kind of avoided the fact that it's a prayer. But it is, for the lack of a better term, it's a prayer. And it's not a prayer to a particular God or particular deity. It is just that keeping your heart and mind aligned and open to the potentiality and the possibility of the universe. And that is the opposite of what the ego does to protect us. The ego protects us by falling back to what's familiar, even if it's painful. It's not there to push us into the unknown and to generate risk for us. The ego is there as I would say, animalistic, sort of leftover piece of the monkey mind, which has been potentially useful to keep us away from threats and predator and danger over the evolutionary years. And we're still evolving. Don't think we're done. Jeez, we're still bloody space chimps, right? But the opposite of that ego and that surviving mindset is the thriving mindset. So that means you need to condition your brain and your mind and your heart to the potential of what could be. And that is so immense. The potential for that is immense, so big that, you might aim towards something, but you never really know how it's going to reward you. But you'll recognize it in time, I've found. So the prayer, it's kind of scripted. I do just say I'm thankful for things like the challenges in my life, for the obstacles. I am grateful for the things that are creating character for me. Again, we talked about last week about the opportunity to create, temperance, justice, wisdom, courage. That's how you need to see the obstacles and challenges in your life, as opportunities to grow and to reinforce your values. So I am grateful for those. And I put that into the gratitude prayer to go, fuck you. This is what is building me up. So I'm grateful for the process of it, because it's just building me up to something bigger and better. And if you're having problems with the prayer, particularly around channeling genuine gratitude, what you need to do is recall a situation or a time in your life where you felt genuinely grateful. Okay? Think about times and align them to your body and mind. To make a gratitude practice really effective, You can't just be hollow about your words. And I talked about this again last time I talked about gratitude and the gratitude practice. You need to feel it. You need to be aligning your body and your mind, your emotional body and your cognitive mind to the state of gratitude, because that is what reinforces the negativity that has, deregulates the negativity, deconditions your body and mind from being fearful. Probably the best way I can put it off the top of my dome. Again, the opposite of the ego is to have gratitude and open the possibilities of who you are, and open to the possibilities of the universe because you are grateful for what it has given you so far. So channeling emotional states, feeling grateful, hold that emotional state in your body. Try and hold onto that emotion as deep as you can. Really feel it. Dig into that emotion and try and hold it in there. And a great way to maybe, to grow that emotion inside you, it's sort of like when you blow on a fire. Right? When you're blowing on a few tinders and you want to make that fire burn, very simple, add some air. And what I mean by that is, I like to visualize sometimes when I take a deep breath, that feeling is growing within me, like filling up a balloon, or again, blowing on that fire, stoking that fire, building it up. Right? And that can get you into that positive state of mind. And making sure you've got that feeling inside your body, in your mind, whilst you are talking about what you're grateful for. Okay? And at this point in time, this is a great place where you can add your little manifestation, your little wishful thinking, right? This is where you might throw in, hey, universe, I wouldn't mind winning the Tats Lotto. You know what I mean? Because the idea is to manifest from a positive place. If you are open to the possibilities that positivity can bring you, you will attract that into your life. That's kind of what The Secret is about, actually. Was just literally about positive manifestation of the things in your life. And there is something to it. There is something to The Secret. Oprah probably oversold the concept of it, and there was a few excitable people that got into it. But there is certainly some genuine power and capability inside just thinking positively and having that frequency, that positive frequency out in the universe, because it'll attract good things to you. It's simple, but hard to maintain and believe that it's possible. So yeah, gratitude prayer. Ask the universe for something. Right now, I'm asking the universe for great, consistent growth across ACN. What else am I asking for? Oh yeah, and a quality partner in my life too. A nice lady. That's a nice thing that I would like to round out again. I don't necessarily think I'm going to go back into a relationship anytime soon. Just a great friend with a couple of benefits that, doesn't need too much of my time, but is still happy to have a good time. Whatever that means. So that's, right now we are up to maybe about 6:20, 6:15 in the morning. So a lot's covered in that first part of the day. And that's because it's the most dense, right? It's the most dense part of my day, and we've still got plenty to go. Once we go into the journaling, I will go into my morning prep. So setting up myself for the day physically. What does that mean? First thing I do, one of the first things I do after my journaling is have a coffee. Now, I cannot survive without it. I am addicted to caffeine. I am okay with that, as are a lot of people. So a big dose of caffeine in the morning. I have a long black, 2 sugars. Just gets me awake in the morning. If I don't have a cup of coffee within a couple of hours, I feel like shit, and that's very, very much, an addiction. It's a sign of addiction. It is what it is. There could be worse things to be addicted to. Cup of coffee in the morning. When I'm having my coffee, I like to read. So I will read Blinkist. I've talked about Blinkist before. So instead of reading actual books, they are condensed versions of books, primarily non-fiction. And they boil an entire book down into its prime concepts and illustrations of points. Well, not illustrations, but illustrating the points through get to the fucking meat of and the good shit of that book. So I'll read one of those, ideally. I've probably fallen off that wagon a little bit recently too. I do get stuck into the socials, mostly because I'm usually checking first thing in the morning how the apps have performed for ACN overnight and into the evening from the night before. Any new followers, comments, all that sort of stuff. I call it checking the traps. I check all the socials, see how things are performing, if there's anything I need to be aware of, and just watch that follower count creep up day by day. It's a nice little way to build momentum. And then, once I've had my coffee, I will have my morning dump. That usually comes after the first or second sip. Most of my coffee is consumed on the toilet. Brown going in, brown going out. Fuck it. I live on my own. I fucking love it. Right? I haven't closed the door to take a shit in 2 years. It's the best. That is freedom, ladies and gentlemen. Freedom is shitting with the door open, having a coffee in your own vapors. I don't give a fuck. It's great. Take my dump. Wash my hands. Don't know why I felt like I had to say that, but I did. I also weigh myself after my morning dump. That's part of my daily routine, my fitness routine with Nikita. Check how much, where I'm sitting at weight-wise. Jot that down on my phone, and then get ready to go to the gym. So for my physical health, I train 5 to 6 days a week. And when I say train, that's 3 days of lifting and 2 to 3 days of cardio. So the cardio is relatively straightforward. It's just an hour of steady state or, steady-ish state cardio for, usually I would go for a bike ride. But I've had to stop that now because it's actually hurting my balls too much. I have something called a variocele. Here's a little bit of an insider goss for you. A variocele is basically a varicose vein in your testicle. So, and what that does is it's quite sensitive to bumps and to tension and to torsion. So the bike seat and all the bumping of the bike seat on the gooch actually inflames that variocele, and then what happens is the pipe, basically the pipes from, I don't know where they actually go, to my nut, they get inflamed and quite sore and quite swollen. And it does not feel good, man. It does not feel good at all. And that I get a referred pain up into my stomach. So it's like being kicked in the balls consistently, but in a very small amount. It's not like, it wouldn't be like a flick to the balls, but it's just like, it's just not nice. Anyway, so I've stopped riding my bike less. I will just chuck on rolling hills or, different variations of incline on an hour on the treadmill at a pace where, it's a brisk walk. It's usually about, I think it's like 5.5 Ks I usually do as a speed. And then the degrees just vary. I just let the machine do the work. Usually I'm burning about 500 plus calories per hour. And I mean, I don't necessarily do it to lose any weight. I'm sure it does regulate my weight and it's good for my circulation and whatnot, but I've actually found it to be quite a useful tool for deep thinking time, the cardio. There's something about occupying my body with a low intensity or low brain intensity activity that allows me to get into, maybe it is that, that theta mode I was talking about, where I'm in that more sensate, deep thinking mind where I can just let my mind wander. It's a great place for ideas to formulate. So when I've written jokes in the past, a great way for me to write jokes is to create mindlessness in my body as opposed to mindfulness. And what I mean by that is when you're just doing those inane activities like washing the dishes or cleaning, where you don't need a lot of brain power to do it, and your mind can just sort of wander off and think about shit. So I will use these cardio sessions for doing some deep thinking time across a various amount of topics. What I will do is sometimes I'll take one of my nootropics. I just have my phone open. I've got music playing usually. I have music playing and I'll just have the notes app in my phone. I use Evernote. on my phone, and I will just jot down things that fall out of my brain and get them out of my brain onto a piece of paper or digital paper, whatever it is. And that's a great way to declutter your mind as well, because a lot of the times you might have ideas flowing, but if you're holding a lot of these things that, oh, I have to do this later, I have to do this later, you're holding on to that and you're not leaving enough space for your brain to flow for new ideas and new concepts, right? So having these deeper thinking sessions where you just brain dump everything out can be pretty useful for allowing new information, new cognition into your mind. So give that a shot if you like. It's almost meditative. It really is meditative for a lot of people. And if I would really recommend that you find something like that you can do. I did the same thing when I was cycling as well. I would just have headphones on. I couldn't really take notes for obvious reasons. But sometimes I would just tell Siri just to make a note, and I just jot it down. Or maybe when I take a small breather, just sort of jot them down on the phone and keep going. I also usually during this, I'm either deep thinking or I'm meditating. So I actually do a meditative practice once every couple of weeks, which is the more woo-woo side of the things that I do. So there's a guy called Joe Dispenza. I've talked about him multiple times. Basically, he's got these meditations that you can do that are about 40 to 45 minutes long, and it's about channeling conscious awareness of the different energy centers we have in our body. I'm not going to go too deep into that. I'll save that for another episode about what that actually means. But essentially, it's just meditation. It's an extended meditation. That's the best way I can put it for now. But again, I'm not just sitting there, just staring at a screen, and that's why cardio can be so boring if it's just steady state, just in one location, is that your brain doesn't have the ability to wander or doesn't have the ability to be occupied because you're just like, oh yeah, I'm just focusing on 25 minutes to go. And that's shit, right? That's boring as fuck. So that's my cardio, a couple of days a week. As far as my workouts go, it's pretty simplistic. I don't do anything crazy when it comes to workouts. So my workout split is push, pull, and legs. So push on a Tuesday, legs on a Thursday, pull on a Saturday. I focus on heavy compound movements, so the big movements, bench, deadlift, squat, overhead press, a couple of accessories for the areas that I think are lagging in my body. Right now, that would be my lower lats. My delts are always, my shoulders are always a weak spot for me. They're always the least strong. I've had a variety of injuries and also wasn't a very active kid, so I think that's what's contributed to that. And then I do abs, every time I do a workout, so 3 days a week. And by focusing on heavy movements, I've got good form from years of practice and also studying a lot of fitness and movement over my life. Yeah, it's actually not. I'm not going crazy in my workouts. For me, fitness is more, and the exercise is more about maintaining that positive mental state, getting the endorphins, the routine. Humans are routine animals. We like to have that consistency. And I do notice days where I don't work out, I do feel a little sluggish, probably, a little running on empty, which is strange because I'm not burning as much energy, but I think you just need it to flow around your body. It keeps you going. And also, I don't just say fitness is for mental health. Obviously, it's for physical as well. Looking fucking great is a significant motivator for going to the gym too. But I do that for me. All of these exercises, all of this is for me. It's not to impress anyone else. All of the nice things that people say to me and the compliments, they're just upside. For me, it's just about self-satisfaction that I am keeping myself in peak physical and mental shape so I can achieve the fucking things that I want to do in my life. So I'm out of the gym, hopefully by about 8:30, particularly on days where I don't need to commute. That's one of the beauties of working from home, is that I don't need to commute. I commute to my office, which is fucking sweet. I have to go into the office a couple of times a week, which is not too bad. It's only about half an hour door to door. But I could not go to a job where I have to commute every fucking day. Fuck that. It's just a shitty waste of time. Work is what you do, not where you go. So if you're having pushback on that with any of your employers, might be time for a fresh job. So, at home, 8:30. What I try and do, and I will admit that I am not very good at this lately, is once I get home, I will meditate. So no more 10 minutes a day. That's it. I use Sam Harris's Waking Up app, just guided meditations, and 10 minutes every single day. And it's so hard for me to maintain this habit. I don't fucking know why. I know how good for me that it is, but I just don't. But the idea is I am mindful during the day in various bursts. I think it's good to formulate that habit, but once you understand the nature of mind and have integrated the practice of what mindfulness is, you don't necessarily need to be there every single day, which is what the state that I'm comfortably in now. But I still want to do it every single day because I know how good it is for me. But 10 minutes a day, I let Sam do the work, I plug in, I try and be as broadly minded and opening my mind and my sense doors, being more in my sensory body as opposed to thinking of shit, and being observant of my thoughts instead of being in them. That's one of the key practices of mindfulness. So 10 minutes of that. Take a quick shower when I can, unless it's busy or I've had work to do. Sometimes the shower can be pushed out a little bit. That's not a big deal. I have been integrating cold showers into my routine. I don't take a full cold shower. All I do is at the end of my shower, I'll flick it to full cold and sit in it for 30 seconds and just suck it up. Now, the idea behind cold showers, ask Wim Hof about all the benefits of it. Again, Dr. Andrew Huberman about the full benefits of it. Releases endorphins, releases a lot of feel-good hormones, shocks the body in a positive way. And one of the things you have to do when you are doing cold therapy is that you don't want to react. The idea, one of the practices behind cold exposure therapy is to dysregulate, or not dysregulate your system, but in the face of your nervous system being deregulated by cold, that your conscious mind doesn't get sucked into suffering. And you're sucking it up. Like, that sometimes you see like crazy people and they're just standing in the street in the pouring rain and they're just staring with a 1,000-mile stare. You kind of want to get to that point. You want to be the hard ass that is like, despite how cold this shit is, I will stay stoic and centered. Because again, that is a practice in self-regulating your nervous system from external threats, which is extremely important, not just in the physical world, but the mental world as well. So give that a shot. 30 seconds, don't be a pussy, and then build up 5 seconds at a time over time. I think you can do it 3 to 4 days a week. Huberman says that you should aim for 11 minutes per week of cold exposure therapy. Let's round it down to 10. And, that's probably one of the 1% as opposed to the real most beneficial practices. But hey, chuck it in. Once I've done my shower, I will have my dose of nootropics. So I've talked about Alpha Brain so many fucking times on this podcast. Again, get it, enjoy it. It's fantastic. So that helps me focus in for the rest of the day. Kicks off my deep work part, so knocking a few tasks off first thing in the morning. I also have a secondary nootropic that I take, but that's some secret sauce. I'll have to put that behind the Patreon sometime soon, if that ever exists. It will. But it's another special nootropic that I get from Nikita that is fucking potent. It's delicious. It's good for the brain. So, done my workout, gone to the gym, relaxed. Next big thing is diet. Now, diet is a significant contributor to your overall well-being. It really is about 80% diet when it comes to your physical health. Because if you think about it, you're putting in the building blocks and the minerals and the things that you need to maintain a healthy, positive body, which is what fuels your mind. So I've recognized the importance of diet after many years of being a poorly habited fatty, you know, eating wildly inconsistently when it came to calories and macros and what foods are good for me, and ignoring things that did not digest well. So I've honed in that. I've learnt the lesson. There is so much to be gained from just eating high quality food every single day. So what do? I still eat 3 meals a day, just like most people. It's a very high protein diet. I range anywhere, on average, probably about 250 plus grams of protein per day. For the average person, that's a fucking lot. For your average meathead, that's about average. I don't consider myself a meathead, but I am. The fact that 50% of my diet is meat, I'm probably literally a meathead. So now, the idea behind dieting is it's very individualistic, but depending on what your body type is, a lot of hormonal factors. So I can't speak for everyone. I can only speak for what's worked for me. I lost a lot of my weight through high protein ketogenic dieting. So with high protein keto, it's just meats, fats, and very little carbohydrates. So with that, um, 50% of my macros are protein, 45% is a fat, and then about 50 grams of carbs is what you need to get into ketosis. I might take a couple of steps back here and talk about what ketosis is and what ketogenic dieting is, if you don't know about it already. For the layperson, ketogenic dieting is the process of using ketones as your primary energy source as opposed to carbohydrates and sugars. And the reason why we do that is that's actually our natural state. That is our natural digestive and energy state. That is why we carry around excess fat in our body, because that body is stored energy. Our body converts sugars and excess calories into fat that we are supposed to burn later at a later date. And that's what we were doing when we were monkeys and cavemen and all that sort of good stuff, is that we were burning off excess energy through fat and adding that energy through the consumption of fat, because animal fats I guess they're only animal fats, you're not eating human fats, are extremely nutritious for us, particularly for men. Saturated fats and cholesterols are part of the building blocks of testosterone. We are meant to eat meat. And if there are any vegans on here that disagree, fight me. I will win. So with the ketogenic dieting, it's our natural, fat is our body's natural energy system. It is what we are meant to consume. So with that, why wouldn't we use that day to day? Why wouldn't it be the most effective form of dieting? So carbohydrates in nature are actually few and far between. Berries, you think about foraging and scrounging, berries aren't not very high in carbohydrates. They're quite low in sugar. Fruits are very seasonal. So once we were nomadic, it would be a great thing to find fruit. Most of the fruits that we do find are not very evergreen. They're seasonal. So, during the spring and the summer, we might have had more carbohydrates and more energy because we were in the sun more. So what were we doing? We were hunting. We were hunting for, animals. We were scrounging around for tubers. So that's why potato is still good for us. Asians were scrounging around for rice. And that's why rice is still okay. But things like seeds, seed oils, soy, all of these things are, anything that's processed is the result of agriculture. Agriculture has been massively convenient to us as a species, but it's actually probably not good for our overall physical and mental health. As a survival tool, great. As a thriving tool, not so good. So going and using ketosis to burn fat, going into a calorie deficit, you still need that deficit as an energy equation. One of the biggest things you should learn, actually, is understanding how to count calories. Counting calories, counting how much energy you consume every day is important because it's an energy system. And that's our primary energy system. So when you don't understand that, how do you understand how your body operates? And how do you know if you're getting enough energy to do the things you need to do? There are so many metrics around how we live and survive that are incredibly useful to us that we do not utilize on a daily basis. And once you understand those numbers and you gain mastery over them, so many things open up for you. Right? I've talked about the different flows of resources and energy, money, definitely calories and energy would be part of that major system you have to understand. All these things, once you master the numbers, become second nature, and you can focus on the big fun stuff because you've mastered the little systems that you need to tweak. Like Daniel said a couple of weeks ago, you tweak a few numbers at the top line, they come back to you in a massive way in the bottom line. So understand your calories, understand your food intake, and that's a great way to manage your metabolism, your physical health, your mental health as well. So what I eat, about a kilo of meat most days. Most of my meals are centered around having some sort of protein shake in the morning, mostly because I'm pretty lazy when it comes to eating first thing in the morning. I'm not much of a breakfast person. I usually will have a protein shake with a few berries or some fruit. If I have fruit in my diet at that point in time, I'll have my creatine in with the protein powder. Lunch and dinner is always 400 grams of meat. Usually chicken breast and then porterhouse steak for dinner. And then depending on where I am in my diet, if I'm cutting, it'll just be a lot of green stuff and some salads. So, tomato, cucumber, a few greens here and there. Or if I've got, I'm bulking a little bit, which is I'm currently doing at the moment, I will have white rice, potato, some sort of clean carbohydrate. Now, I actually avoid corn and refined wheat in my diet just because I found it does not serve my gut very well. I avoid soy as much as I can as well because it definitely has estrogenic. It increases your estrogen is what I'm trying to say. And I'm starting to lose my brain a little bit because I've been talking nonstop for about an hour now. I might have to break this up into a two-parter. I probably will actually because I am really running out of brain now. It's been a long day, guys. So with the, if you are a female though, have the soy. Have high quality dairy as well because you want the estrogen. You want your body to have lots of estrogen in the body. It feminizes you. You need estrogen in your body to survive. You also do need a little bit of testosterone. A lot of post-menstrual cycle management and menopause management is actually around the regulation of testosterone as opposed to estrogen in females, which is quite an interesting fact. So you want your estrogen if you're a lady. If you're a boy, don't be a soy boy. Get some fucking protein on your fork. Get them gains going, boys. Seed oils, I avoid those as well. I don't know the exact science around it, but everyone I talk to about, particularly in the keto one, talks about seed oils. It's just bad for you. I think it's got a bad omega profile. Don't ask me the science on that. Google it. Also know that most of the seed oils were introduced by private industry as a food product because it was very cheap to produce or was an off product or a byproduct of a different production process. It's like, why did they find the need to process a whole bunch of sunflowers? Why did we need to grind up a whole bunch of canola flowers? Why are we fucking doing that? So when I use fats in my food, and I do eat a lot of fat, I focus on olive oil. I've been using ghee lately, which is clarified butter. Don't be afraid to use lard, grass-fed butter. Fats are good for you. Again, particularly as men, cholesterol, saturated fats, all are building blocks for testosterone. So get the fuck in there and get those fats, son. Fats don't make you fat. An excess calorie intake will make you fat. Fats are the densest calorie source at 9 calories per gram of fat. So that's why they probably say that sort of shit, but it's not true at all. Also consider that the food pyramid hasn't been updated in over 50 years. And most of those food groups and the associations around the food pyramid were actually sponsored by agricultural interest groups, right? So people that were heavily in the grain industry were influencing and lobbying back in the day to say, hey, the government should recommend that we should have 7 serves of grains per day, and sell it to the people. So then we sell a shitload more fucking cereal and shit like that. What I'm trying to say is you need to really rethink the information that's being fed to you by the government about your health and nutrition, because most of it is fucking horseshit. I mean, if you look at that star rating system that we've got on food in Australia, like, what was it? I think there was like, you can get like a half star rate. What was the thing I was thinking about the other day? I think like shapes were like almost a 4-star rating, or at least 3.5 stars. And then there were things like, I don't know, there's another health food that was like 2 stars, but it was a whole unprocessed food, or at least was like all natural, and got less star health rating than shapes because it had a higher fat ratio than carbohydrates. But again, that 5-star rating system is based on the pyramid that is highly out of date. So don't fucking believe it. So dumb. Now I feel like pizza shapes. Sorry if I've made anyone else feel like pizza shapes. But yeah, 3 meals a day. I'm eating about 2,000 calories. That's usually my maintenance. It's probably around 1,800 to 2,000 calories per day. So I'm not a big eater. 2,000 calories, I think the average is like 2,200 or 2,500 for an adult man. And like, I think when they say adult man, they probably mean someone that's a bit more physically active, because I am, in office-based work most of the time. I'm probably a little bit taller. Your height does have a significant influence on your metabolic capacity too. So yeah, 2,000 calories, on average 250 grams of protein per day. Fill the rest in with stuff that does not irritate my gut. And just, eat really simply and really boring, to be quite honest. I don't have a very varied diet during the day. Again, I've eaten porterhouse steak for dinner for, I don't know, 4 to 5 days a week minimum over the last 2+ years. The concept of variety in your diet, again, is being pushed by big food, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I really am running out of brain here. Big consumption, big agriculture, so they can sell you heaps of different types of products all at once, because that's how all these agricultural influence groups work. I never thought I would say agricultural influence groups. I can't really think of the term now, but there's the Australian Pork Federation and the Australian Red Meat Federation. Right? These are all interest groups that are trying to sell their product, and they are there to just sell their own product and, look after their own interests. And that may not necessarily be in the end consumer's best interest, but they roll the fucking turd and glitter in a certain way to make sure it is. Right? Do you remember there's like Uncle Toby's fucking oatmeal and porridge? They have like the most ridiculous fucking descriptions of healthy things inside the porridge. It was like phytoglutans or some other ridiculous shit. I'm going to look that up. But again, just the absolute war for your attention, for your gut, and leveraging, fractional health tips and tools and perspectives to try and win you over. And so you'll keep consuming this stuff. It's a real fucking shame. Rant aside, keto dieting, 3 meals a day, high protein, good quality meats. I would love to get more organic meat if I could. It's just that it's hard to find consistently and to fit in with my routine. My biggest issue is to adding more to my routines is just time at this point, because I'm doing so much at once. And that's the diet. And I think I might just leave it there. I'm going to make this part 1, guys, because we're hitting the hour. I don't have enough gas to finish off the second half. There's lots in there for you to process in there as well. That's the bulk of my processes, but we will dip into what is good for you again next week. We'll talk about the other little tips and tricks I have during the day, my evening routine, and ways that you can, mix and match these to your own benefit as well. So, don't want to leave you hanging, but unfortunately I will. Next week we'll cover off more of this. But you can see, I put a lot of thought into this, guys. I've put a lot of thought into these processes, into the hows and whys. So, just copying me and copying my work, I am that fucking nerdy Asian, in primary school. But I'm letting you copy my work. You don't have to know all the details, just know it works. But it also is useful to reinforce why it works in your own brain too. So, quote me on that, don't quote me on that. Just fucking try it if you want. But next week we'll go through the rest. Any life updates? Nah, fuck that. You know where to find me on the socials. J Raymond on Instagram. Hit up ACN, Aussie Comedy Network, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Facebook is dead, but it's there for the boomers anyway. Anything else I want to plug? Footscray Comedy Club. Got some new great gigs going. Check out Footscray Comedy Club on Instagram to keep up with all the latest shows. Thanks for all the lovely feedback that I've been getting around the podcast. I still get these constant little dribs and drabs of people loving what I'm doing, and it is very nice. It's very reassuring. If there's anything you want me to talk about on the pod and dive into, you know where to find me. Hit up the DMs. Come find me. I'm an open book. And again, guys and ladies, if there are any, I think there is a few. Thank you very much for being here. I will see you again next week. Thank you, bingers, and good day, good evening, and good night. Ciao.